While we're sitting here waiting for Luke, natural conversation here. I'd love to just, tell me about yourself. So how did you kind of become Matt Laughlin, the yurt guru? Should we?
No, don't call me that. I don't.
You don't want to be the yurt guru?
I don't mind talking about the yurt, but I'm not. It's funny, the things you put on social media, like. I'm not a yurt expert, but just because I built a guest house yurt.
Yeah, the guru.
It's what everybody
uses
careful what you put out there. I'm like, God, I'm not. I love that I did it, but it's not like I'm no yurt guru at all.
So you get a lot of calls about the yurt now. Everybody wants to know, how'd you build it? How'd you do it?
No, people. It's that project. It wasn't a master business plan. It just started off with my wife and I'm using like an actual yurt, like a canvas yurt. We had a part on our property and we thought, oh, it'd be fun just to have this for visitors in the summer. They could stay there. And then I just started researching it and I found a company called Smiling Wood Yurts. They're out of Washington State and they build these kits and they're basically like homes. And one thing led to the other. And, it's one of the things like spent far more than I thought, took longer than I thought. But the niche we fill is pretty fun. It's that experiential, different, unique short-term rental stay. So it's going well. It's there's many things I would do differently now, but people love staying there. It's unique. It's quiet. It's in the woods. It's got a cold plunge and a sauna. All the things.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's the business category. But I do enjoy using it for men's group retreats or personal use when I can. It's not a huge space, but
yeah, I never told you this, but my wife sent it to me one day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forgot to tell you, and she was like, "Hey, we should stay at this yurt," and I was like, "Oh, that's my buddy Matt's place." Actually.
Yeah.
So we'll have to come check it out.
Yeah, it's a fun little staycation. You can sneak away. It's quiet. And
beautiful.
Yeah,
that's cool. So sometimes men's groups in there. Give me your background from maybe college on of what it's always so interesting to me to hear the journey of people who ended up in a space of helping others.
Yeah.
Right? Like the accountant who's the CFO is like, I went to school for accounting and here I am.
I know.
CFO.
Who are those creatures?
Yeah. But the ones who end up doing something where there's a social impact and their people are their purpose kind of mission is always really intriguing to me. Were you in high school where you're like, I want to help people, or is this some gradual journey to find out you had a talent for helping others achieve greatness kind of within themselves, if that's the right way to say it?
Yeah, to look back, I'm 51, so originally I was drawn to medicine, and I was in a Doctor of Naturopathic medical school program in Seattle, Bastyr University. Great school. It's essentially, I think naturopaths are licensed in like 17, 20 states to practice primary care medicine. So I did 2 years in that, but my heart of hearts, clinical work, lab work, I was most drawn to the inner heart and spirit of what it is to be a human being, like the internal world. So I decided to leave that program and I went to a graduate school program, got a master's in counseling psychology in Colorado. And that's where I met my wife. And so my first entry into working with people one-on-one was through the whole realm of psychotherapy, mental health, which I don't think is thriving or it has a beautiful place. But so I kind of went first therapy, then I went into business, and then I've swung back around in recent years to coaching to kind of mix like the whole world of business and practicality with the inner life. But yeah, my heart of hearts, we were talking earlier, Scott, about I think you were referencing Luke and like an HVAC company and honorable, noble business and beautiful work. And I wish I got excited to run HVAC companies sometimes, or I was like, man, I just don't have that accounting brain. But I've always had more of an affinity to people, kind of, not from a religious standpoint, but the word like pastoral, encouragement, coaching. I've always had a heart for how hard it is to be a human being, like the struggle, like when people are really honest, how hard it is to be a human being and all the dilemmas we face, and but how inspiring, what a gift it is to be a human being. And so that whole inner psycho-emotional spiritual world I've always been drawn to. So My initial entry was psychotherapy. I had a private practice in Colorado for several years. And then my wife and I, we got a late start to having children, and we have now 4 boys. And we decided when we got clear where we wanted to raise kids, I decided to move back to the inland Northwest. I grew up in Spokane, but moved to Coeur d'Alene in 2013, and we have 4 kids. And so I left the mental health world and went into business. I worked for a fantastic company. It's called N2Co. They do niche magazines across the country in affluent neighborhoods, real estate. All had an opportunity to work on the leadership team, coach other franchise owners. So that same affinity for working with people in the struggle and helping them meet their goals. And so I had quite a run with just I launched my own magazines in Coeur d'Alene. But what I loved most was coaching other business owners in the company. And then I stepped out of that, and I think it was 2018-19, and just went into private practice as a coach. And people love knowing that I can go deep in the I don't practice psychotherapy legally. I'm not a licensed therapist in Idaho, and I'm very disciplined there. I just refer people if they ask me a question that has more to do with clinical mental health issues. But and then and the men's groups, I've been facilitating men's groups, just pulling from things at work, and creating a powerful program for people, privately, that I do for the last 5-6 years. And
it's like a perfect background, and forgive me for sounding over what would you call it, over complimentary to you. I don't want to sound not genuine, because this is genuine, but it's this great background, I believe, to be a coach, where you have some therapy experience. You've seen people in their struggles and in their successes, but then you got a chance to go into the business world and coach from a perspective of success in that industry or in that world, and we're able to find success there. Then you got to come back and say, how can I help men now with the therapeutic side and and I get what you're saying. I love that you gave that caveat. It's a coaching, not a therapy session, right? But and then in their personal lives, whether it's their finance, but you have family down. Now you're a dad of 4 boys, so man, I'm sure the advice and life experiences you have had with 4 boys is really valuable in that experience of helping others as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's just things you don't know until you don't dive in the pool. We're all like that, So
yeah.
I think it helps me relate. Like, looking back when I was in my early 30s as a therapist, I worked with a lot of fathers, business owners in Colorado, and that would work with me, and the dimensions where I could relate were just limited by my own experiences. So I think the relatability, it's interesting when I coach men, a father is a unique creature. When you're a father, that just shifts how you look at business. It puts a quiet guilt, heaviness, pressure, because you always have your ideal based on your values about how you want to be for your children, and how you want to show up for them, how you want to succeed for them, relative to how you actually are showing up. And so I think fathers carry a quiet weight,
100%.
Like a quiet, everyday weight. And that weight's there because they deep down really care. So at this season of my life, I get a special joy for working with fathers, because we all, but in a lot of the groups, it's also equally inspiring to get guys who aren't yet fathers, but they have a, what would you call it, like a noble spirit. They get it, and they're drawn to being a father, and they just soak up any opportunity they can have to be around men who are running families and businesses. And
well, I wish I would have had more training for fatherhood. I think our training is basically whatever our dad was.
Totally.
And fortunately, I learned some great things from my own father and the men in my life around. But it really is. I have a 15-year-old son, and he is now starting to go over to a girl's house frequently. And my wife pulls me aside often as I'm starting to help him set boundaries and rules, and how often are you alone, you're young, maybe in groups more, and we go through those discussions. And my wife will come over and she'll say, I think you're being a little hard on this one, and oh, you're doing the right thing on that one. And I'm like, there is no training manual, there is no experience. just in time to just finally when you get it down and you learn, and so your kids are gone. Right?
Dude, yeah, and you're always about 7 months behind their development.
Exactly. And so it is funny. I try to remember what I really loved about my interactions with my dad and what I didn't like, and you start to notice the things you didn't like are coming out quite a bit.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
It's so hard.
Like semi-unconscious sort of imprinting or patterning.
Yeah.
A lot of, I don't know, I think this may have been attributed to Carl Jung, but I could be wrong on there. But I remember when I was in graduate school reading a great paper on, yes, that's true, you have like an imprint and a patterning from your parents, and you really got to put some season of attention to that. But also you're simultaneously aware of the pattern in a way they weren't. And so there's like constant choice to not be run by that, and to forgive it, to be grateful for the upside of your parent's example, but also the more conscious you become, you have an opportunity to transcend it.
Yeah.
And not be run by it. I still have, even the way I'm affectionate with my kids, like the way I love them, or grab them or tickle them or hug them, or I sit back and I'm like, wow, that was just my dad just then. Like, just makes me kind of. So there's so many things I'm grateful for, and then we all have, our fathers are human. His downsides, I'll be like, oh, that intensity, or I barked there in a way. And but I think the opportunity, generation to generation, is just to. The more you put your attention on that, you're less run by it, and you create these gaps where you don't descend into 28 minutes of error like your father may have.
Right.
And maybe you're 4 minutes in, and that's a victory.
Yeah.
And you clean it up or whatever.
And hope your boys will be a little better, and they'll do 2 minutes, right?
Right. Yeah. Or totally. And each boy is different, their temperaments, but
I try to emulate the good things, right? And we try to improve those other things. But the reality is, I don't have anyone I call. I don't have anyone who trains me in the midst of this, which is one of the reasons why Mode Men and men's groups are so valuable. Because who do you call? Do you call your drinking buddy? Do you call your football buddy and be like, hey, my son's 15, he's going to what do you recommend? It's just not the natural phone call. And so these moments where we can gather, where there's a purpose to that, where fatherhood is the theme tonight, so to speak, and we're going to talk about it, man, I wish I would have done this in my 20s. I wish I would have done this in my 30s. And now finally in my 40s, we're building our own so that we can have men like you and others who have some training on it come in and say, let's talk through this. Like, why do you bark at your kid? What is the reason? And what are some other tools or techniques you could use to handle that situation?
And what's amazing about that, I'll find like in groups like this at Mode, men have an opportunity. It always touches me that, because you'll lay down commitments and goals, let's say, and every man's got providing or earning or business on their mind, and that's important. But sometimes some of the most inspiring things are the seemingly benign, ordinary things that make the most difference. Like, we'll have men where from 5 to 8 p.m., I'm giving my word to all you men, I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm going to be with my family. And I'm going to tell the truth if I deviate. And you think, oh, well, how does that move the bottom line? Or, and actually, this is where men get the most emotional.
Yeah.
And they get the most moved. And just getting their house in order, and something seemingly as innocuous as that, they're all of a sudden attuned to their wife. They're not missing things in the schedule for the week. They're sleeping better. And it takes being around a man tuning into like the emotional impact of drifting from a commitment like that, like just frittering away his attention, the actual impact it has on his business and his kids. And it just inspires you as a dad. You're like, I'm in. I'm going to take.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I'll just be like, actually, my commitment this week is just to do what Scott's doing.
Yeah.
Because wow, I'm gonna. And then it's just uplifting because you're just like, wow, we both went a month, and it's now a habit.
Yeah, we're social chameleons. A lot of times, men. If you put yourself around high achievers, you all of a sudden start achieving more, and you feel proud to be part of that group. So you don't want to let them down, even though they're not really being let down. You want to fit in there, and so I remember. I remember being around certain guys in college that I hung out with all the time, and I had a Canadian buddy, and I started using Canadian words and accents.
totally.
Right. And he would catch and he would just laugh, and he mimicked me. And, the famous line that everybody uses now, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so those little changes, and you brought one up that you maybe saw me smirk, the phone between 5 and 8, my wife would love me forever if I could put my phone away and not, sneak a text in as we, our work life flows
Just
into the
bleeds
evening.
everywhere.
Yeah, it bleeds everywhere. And so that would be huge. But you know what? If you and I were, what do you call them in your practice? Action buddies?
Oh, yeah. Like here at Mode Men, we're calling them action partners.
Yeah, and if you and I were action partners and you text me, after 8, of course, but hey, did you make it?
Did or didn't?
Yeah, did or didn't.
Tell the truth. Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, the next night I'm going to be more inclined to I'm going to show Matt I can do this, and I want to be part of that group of men that really is striving to be better spouses and better fathers. And the phone is by far, I would say, our greatest distraction in the evenings.
And on this, you said something, and if I could comment on it, it was actually, I think it's men make a huge mistake here, and you made just a brief remark. It's so often quoted that you kind of soak in who you're around, like you pick up by osmosis. And so I think Tony Robbins popularized it, and many others say it, like the top 5 people you spend the most frequency with. And there's so much truth in that. And there's a big gap and mistake that keeps men not acting on that. Because it would be an error. It's not so much that you find these 5 hypothetically noble, wealthy, fit men, right?
Right.
Like that's such an error. What it is like you want to put yourself in environments. And one thing I love about Mode is just like a container in a way. You want to put yourselves in atmospheres or environments with like a purposeful structure. Not that you're around like hypothetically perfect men, but the environment calls for. So it's like, like when you're just, friendship's amazing, so you don't need everything structured in life. A dear friend where you could just candidly talk about your life, and you can grumble,
right,
and he's not going to coach you. Thank God for friends like that.
Right. Yeah.
But to take your problems, your aims and your fears, and put them in a container that just intrinsically elevates what looks like a loss, now you see as an opportunity. What looks like insurmountable, now you're going to start looking for solutions. It's not a function that these 5 men that you're hanging around with are perfect. It's just they are aligned with a noble vision like you are. And I think, I don't know, I've always, because I get a ton out of young men. They're not like the Tony Robbins ideal top 5. Like they're younger, they don't have the gray hairs and mistakes. They're not maybe financially in a place older men might be. But I'll get just as much out of being with a young man who reminds me like, let's get after it, man. I'm taking risks. Let's go after it. And on paper, they're not going to meet that hypothetical 5 thing.
Yeah.
But that spark of a young man's vision, I love being around that.
Oh, yeah. The attitude, the ambition.
The naivete.
Yeah.
Like the willingness just to risk.
Yeah.
At our seasons of life, you have, wisdom would say there's you still take risk, but you have more factors in play. So it's not that you can be exactly like that, but anyway, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but just I think men make a mistake like, oh, great, I don't know 5 perfect wealthy people. And then it's so artificial. They'll go to a big glamorous, conference, and they'll try to artificially get around people, but it's really for personal gain. And I think there's something to be said about it's not, you don't have to find perfect people.
Well, that makes it actually so much, that takes the weight off of all those who may be listening and say, well, I don't have 5 amazing people in my life, or I don't have that. Well, we're going to create the environment to help you have the right environment to be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are trying to be better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's true that 5 guys out of shape could all go get in shape together, right? You don't have to have the 5 in shape guys.
Totally.
It
it actually just takes 1 or 2 in the room that are fit.
Yeah.
And it's almost like people pick up by osmosis. They become the center of gravity of fitness in the room and the constant mirror. Because you're around a guy and you listen to him talk about his life and his habits, and you're like, dang. And you just start to up level. Same thing like in a room of 10 men, if you have 2 who are really dialed with their finances and the way they manage their everybody's just lifted up. And
well, even just access for me in my experiences in life, just having access to that knowledge has been so valuable because, again, you might be able to watch a TikTok or a YouTube video, but where do you get to actually sit down with someone who has their finances dialed? Most of us don't even know if we have our finances dialed.
Yeah.
Until you find that person and you're like, oh, I thought I did okay, but wow, you're teaching me a lot. So the access to someone, and again, where do men go for that?
I don't, in today's world, in this vein, I know it sounds abstract, but with none of us lack the information. I mean, we're swimming in it. And with AI, we could create 17,000 strategies for it. But I think what most people lack is the relational container to bring forward their actual life, their actual aims, endeavors, and struggles. And then it's not so much the knowledge, it's to be in a place with other men where your word matters and you have something on the line and it's like the process. So yeah, you're right. I don't know that I think you never want to, there's so many little pockets out there. Like there's men's Bible groups. There's everybody's, of different faith denominations at their church. There's definitely often offerings, but there's real limitations and downsides to all of those. They're often limited to the particular lens, and then you got the social pressure at your church and this and that. So it's fun to get around men who for instance, like love their faith and these values are important to them, but they're just not expressing them or sharing them with other men.
Yeah.
On the day-to-day, you know what I mean? Like,
it's hard in a church group to fully open up sometimes because you are worried about the standard if you're meeting it or not. It's hard sometimes just naturally because whether it's a church group or a specific kind of group, you don't want to ever go outside of those parameters in those groups, and what you're struggling with or your successes may not be in that. If you're in a church group, it's hard to be like, guys, I did $1 million deal this year.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, whoa, brag much, you know?
Yeah.
But can we create a men's group where whatever your struggle is, whatever your success is, you're going to have the cheerleaders to support the brotherhood, and then also the help when you need the help, which is something you've mastered, which is why we're so excited to bring you into Mode Men this year and help us run these groups as you've so successfully done. So help us understand, how have you achieved that? How have you been able to get a bunch of men in a room, have them open up about a variety of concerns and share a variety of successes in a way where the non-religious and the religious, where the young and the old, where the financially well-off and the financially just getting started can all sit in a room together and find common ground and help each other improve? How have you done that?
Yeah, I've pulled from one. We were talking about this earlier. It's the key, I think, is to root it in principles and processes that for time immemorial have worked for human beings, for men. So, and to be clear about what the group is and isn't. So it's obviously not these aren't therapy groups at Mode, and they're not, but they're also not rarefied academic entrepreneurial niche topic. There could be offshoots of that. There's so many things you guys are doing at Mode. But what I found is what really inspired me to plug in with you guys here. I've just been so inspired by Luke's vision and the need you're meeting in the community for men and women to connect in all the overlapping ways they can at Mode. But the word mode, so I'll answer your question with your brand.
Love it.
And so the word mode, one of its definitions is a way of being, right? So a manner of being, how you operate. And your way of being is far more significant in life as a human being than the particulars of the content or strategy or the circumstances. It's like, how do you shift your way of being in life? So as a former therapist, as now coach and former business owner in sales and marketing, the three domains I've observed that actually shift someone's way of being. So let's take an example. We all know what it's like to feel defeated, to have a way of being indecisive. You're in this inconsistent, indecisive, defeated, or discouraged mode of being. And we all know as men what it's like to operate out of courage, to be courageous, to be inspired, to be devoted and consistent. And of course, we we all value the latter. We all value a more powerful, inspired, loving way of being, whatever your function and role in life. So how do you shift that? So the three areas that I think are universal across religious denominations and interests are, one, faith and meaning. You get men in a room, and I think this is culturally a perfect timing in our world today. You get men talking about what's dear to them at the level of their faith. Like when they realize unaided, I can't handle this on my own, how do they relate to their faith? How do they where do they find faith and meaning? How do they cooperate with their faith? And to do it not with an agenda, like I'm not trying to evangelize you to my denomination. I'm not trying to do a make wrong if you're an agnostic. I'm just having the courage to be honest about where I am in my own faith walk. And so of the three principles, the first is this: anytime a man, I always encourage them, put more attention there. I never tell them the what. I'm like, are you putting attention there? And I swear, if you put attention there, it will bear fruit. It might have some transitory discomfort, but you'll see men in the groups, they'll just be like, all right, I'm journaling every morning, or I'm gonna read scripture again, or I'm gonna replug into my devotionals, whatever their expression. And everybody articulates their faith a bit differently based on their values and their religious orientation.
I would guess that putting more attention there often leads to some sort of meditative experience, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, men or people revitalize that. They're like, gosh, you know what? I'm going to restart my days with meditation and prayer and journaling. Let's say some permutation of that quiet. And that's often one of the main commitments a man will make in these groups. They'll re-energize it. The particulars. It's a culture of respect, and what it is to be a man is to have the courage to be yourself among men who may not believe or see it the way you do. And an adolescent can't do that. A man can do that. And we admire men that will sit down and be like, I see it this way, and it's dear to me. And I know that you don't quite see it that way. And I'm free to just share and respect. That's being a man.
Yeah.
And so to shift your way of being, it never fails me. So I just have such faith in the principle. The second one, Scott, is anytime in order for a man to shift his way of being, another one would be what I call self-examination and inner work. So there's so many expressions of this in Christianity. It's called an examination of conscience. It's centuries old, the virtues and the vices. In 12-step groups, there's taking a fearless moral inventory where you examine your shortcomings and just straight up coaching to get someone to get out of any vagueness and look at the truth. Like, what are the numbers of the business? And where are you failing in the business? No one wants to look at that. Nobody. Yeah. But again, if you have the courage to put your attention there, oh my gosh, things that seemed really vague and insurmountable all of a sudden become clear. So in the groups, men don't like wallow in a shortcoming, or the idea isn't to wallow in your downside, but to have the courage to constantly be in a container that invites you to examine where you're off, where you're deviating from your ideal. And oftentimes...
And are these, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
are these a lot of times data points or things that are you obviously, or are you seeing a lot of men who base on feeling? So I get it. If my business is losing money, I can't brag about the success of it, right? Well, Scott, you're not looking at the data here. It's different from what you think or feel. Or I get that one, but how do you judge when they're struggling in their marriage or with, being a father? Is that more of a feel thing in these groups?
Yeah, it's not some. It's almost more of so in the groups, any successful coaching men's group is going to have culturally an anchor of accountability and responsibility. So it's looking at, okay, what are my shortcomings in this? What are my blind spots? And where are the downsides of my personality maybe at work here? And no one, in our human nature, that brings up shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And it, as fathers, it would be unwise if we encouraged our kids to share their dirty laundry with the world. There's discretion and wisdom with this. But I think a lot of men, if they're honest, how often do they have the willingness to examine where they're, it could be as simple as an unkindness, an inconsideration, a selfishness in their marriage. Again, where they're not sharing the private particulars of deep marital, say, discourse. They're in the group. They're like, I'm careless here in my marriage. Hey guys, I'm going to make a commitment here to, date night or this or that, or so yeah, it's the feeling. I think the great barriers to actually examining how well you're doing and how well you're not doing tend to be, in my experience, drawing on my background as a therapist, it's self-condemnation and guilt, and men just fear that feeling coming.
Yeah.
And so we men will avoid the thing because we don't. So the more you can, so it does require some level of courage and kind of compassion for yourself. And those feelings are transitory. And so in the group, there's a cadence that goes around. You see other men. It's just so liberating. Like, so we're so trained to just be on it all the time. And and again, that's wise. You shouldn't be like, oh, I'm an idiot. You don't train your kids to air their private details. But it's inspiring to sit down with a competent man who's doing well in this domain and that, and just to hear him tell the truth about how he was selfish about something or inconsiderate. And then to hear him at the end of the meeting make a commitment to rectify that. Hey guys, here's my commitment this week. I'm going to take action on these two things I have regret about, deviating from my values on. And I'm going to make a little micro amends with that, my coworker or my team member. I'm just going to clean that up. That is so immediately the emotional safety in the room is just whoosh.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it's
yeah, I love the way you said that, and I'm reflecting on some of my greatest experiences with the quote unquote best men I've known and been around, and probably the most human, connecting, endearing moments I've had with them is when they've said, man, I messed up there, or that's my bad, or I should have done this better, or I've had moments where I've even been on their side and I've defended, and they've said, no, actually, I was wrong. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was kind of just buttering you up so you didn't feel bad, but you're right. And it opens up this total vulnerability and actually a connection that's very human and very important. And I've really valued those kind of moments. And so I could see in a group, you get a bunch of guys who are willing to share some of their inconsistencies in life, that it would open you up to be willing to share yourself. It would open you up to be willing to change, right? Because when it's you and your kid who are having the problem, and my son are arguing over who's right or wrong, well, I'm the dad, I'm the big guy, but you get the dad across, it's like, I did that once, I was wrong. You're like, oh, okay, it's okay for me to be wrong here. Go apologize to my son, and that pure...
Yeah, and even that example of apologize, that's an action. Like, so in the groups, what I found is helpful. So let's say a therapy group, an old school 1970s, 80s therapy groups were big, and the downside is there wasn't like an accountability, a commitment, and an action to rectify something. So in the group, something I've found is that combination of encourage men to talk about what's most valuable to them in their faith and meaning, what inspires them to take on hardships or go after it. Be honest about their downsides, where they're deviating from their ideals, tell the truth about it. And then the third component that really shifts a man's way of being to show up more courageously and consistently is to give his word to taking an action. And it's not necessarily out of one's downside. It could just be an inspired vision. Like a lot of men, they have something they want to do in their business or their personal life. They've been just delaying it, neglecting it. They haven't brought it into being, or they haven't been inspired to do it. But when you have men give their word to other men, and there's this great quote, like basically, and when they come back to the next group, because the group goes to work on you, like you're like, oh my God, I just told 9 men that hell or high water, I'm going to do this and this before we meet again. And then so part of the process is just reporting back on what happened. And the listener's job is not to correct or do anything, just the container. It does the work. You're like, even just so many guys, it's funny in the commitments, they'll be like, I did it, but I did it the night before the group. Like they'll be like, but they did it. And then you keep going to a group every couple of weeks. So you meet every other week. My goodness, that you stack win upon win upon win upon win. It could be trivial things like, I finally caught up on my taxes, to this, or like I hired that person remotely. I now have that team member, and oh my God, I have 12 hours in my week to work on revenue generating activity in my business. And then you stack another one and another one. So your word is a lot more in a vacuum, going back to your point earlier, like around who you hang around with. Your word, what you speak, is way more generative in the world when you have the courage to share it with other men.
Yeah.
Not so much if you keep it privately. It just if you don't, you might share with a friend or a wife, but when you put it on the line and lay it out in a container, it's way more generative. Your own personal word, so it's very humbling. You're like, wow, there's like a power. I'm tapping into a collective power of the room here, and I notice that my mode of operating is up-leveling in my life.
Well, there's some great peer pressure there. The fact that you're thinking those 9 men are out doing the thing they committed to. I don't want to be the one who doesn't.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And so it's this brotherhood, and it's this, we call them collisions here, or connections, right? Where we collide with each other, and it creates this beautiful spark of, many different types of sparks, but the spark we may need that day. And these groups are designed to spark action outside of the group. And it's a beautiful setting to have 9 or 10 men sit around and all agree to go do something.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to be the one who
do your thing. I remember the saying, because you basically, if you say you're going to do a thing, and in the end, all you have is your results or your story about why you didn't do it. That's basically
Yeah.
And you just don't want to be the dude who tells a story about why you didn't. And but here's, I want to make
9 other guys who did it, right?
Yeah,
you don't want to.
And the thing is, like, I always say, like, coaching's in the breakdowns, or like even like. So there are times a man doesn't do the thing, but that I can't overemphasize how powerful this is. This is where a container like this goes to work on you, because you'll notice maybe a month, wow, I say this is important to me, and I've really just not given it my all the last 2 meetings. That process will surface a couple things like, is it really important to me? And what is the real obstacle, if so? So men, out of love for one another, they go to work on one another. And it's amazing. We're so much more compassionate to other men than we are with ourselves. And we're so much more encouraging and kind. So if you're like, if I'm sitting with you, Scott, and you're like, God, I keep deviating from that thing. The groups, so there's like group conversation in these groups, and the men are just going to naturally be like, well, Scott, let's look more deeply at this one. Like, maybe you don't want it, or what's really going on. So you just don't drift. So you do miss the mark, because we're all fallible. But when you have the courage to keep giving your word, like, you know what, I'm still going to give my word the 3rd time. That process helps you kind of recalibrate and either get the thing done, or identify the real obstacle, or abandon it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, I don't like pickleball. I know it's trending, but I really, honest to God, I don't even want to play. I want to do something else for my fitness,
Yeah.
So all right. So pickleball's not it for you, bro. Like, just do this then, and then they're back on track. So,
which is so cool, because again, where else would you get that? Where else would you have an opportunity for someone to lovingly help you dig into it? And I've sat with relationship experts before, and I've said this, and they've validated this. You don't want that to be the wife's job all the time. She can't be the one that's constantly trying to help you figure it out or validate. She becomes more of a I don't know what the right word is, but the sort of loving spouse part takes a back seat to this now counselor guide, and it puts pressure on her to figure out what you need to do in a way that of course sometimes she can be that and should be that and is that, but if it's constant where she's trying to coach you through stuff, it changes your relationship.
It really
so
does.
What a cool opportunity to get together with 9 or 10 men consistently, 30, 40, 50 minute, the fun aspects of a social men's group, and have a really cool, circle of trust that can lovingly say, hey, it's not pickleball, bro. You keep bringing up pickleball, but when your wife calls you on that, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go play pickleball more. And so it's a beautiful thing to have that outside of your marriage. I think it probably functions much more effectively.
Yeah. When 7 out of 10 men think you're off in an area, you try it on. They may be wrong, but the high likelihood is they're reflecting something valuable for you to. No, that's a good point too on marriage. Like I personally value fully transparent. My wife is my dearest friend, and she knows everything, and we share everything. But you're right. Like, there's only so much I could expect or place on her in that function or role.
It's a lose-lose situation for them often, where you're sitting on the couch all day, every day. who else is going to tell you to get off the couch? But if they tell you to get off the couch, you're like, don't tell me to get off the couch, and it just puts this burden of, it just changes the relationship.
Yeah, completely. And there's maybe some deep wisdom and intelligence in the feminine impatience or unwillingness to overly accommodate a man distracted. A lot of men, if you sit down with them, we all feel this, like, this domain of life is really humming. This domain's life, these two domains, I'm a little off, But to expect there's something your wife should be irritated and impatient if you're deviating too much there. Like you're to expect her to just be a cheerleader, or then she's enabling something that doesn't align with your values in your marriage, and so. But you want her to be, you're right.
It's a tough balance, isn't it? Right? Like, babe, I want you to help me be better, but don't nag me about it.
Don't reflect the truth that we're really screwing over our life or whatever.
I want you to help me, but not very often, right? Like occasionally. So it is a tough spot, and we all probably go through that balance. And so what a cool concept of a men's group, which is probably as old as time, right? The men getting together to try to help each other, but so much more needed. So you started with faith, which I loved, and that meditative experience. What I thought where you're saying that is, doesn't matter what religion or non-religion, if you're non-religious, that meditating, pondering, thinking, for those who are religious, prayer in there, that's always going to be beneficial. Reflection and moments of silence, nature, all of that is always going to be beneficial on some level.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then the second one, what was your second one again?
Self-examination, inner work.
Yes. Which is that meditation leads right into that, and self-improvement, whether it's daily habits or goals, are to me are extremely valuable. I stopped setting long-term goals years back because long-term goals always by February I hadn't quite achieved, and so far off, whatever. And so I tried to do daily habit stuff, which seems to work way more for me. I can do this every day or that every day, and it's not lose 50 pounds now. It's do this or that. It's not make $1 million. It's every day make call to 3 clients, or every day do this or that, and it seems for me to be much better. I know people who are very successful with year-long goals. Most I've ran across are not. So that self-improvement comes in different packages, and I can't wait to see how the group sort of counsels on those things. What was you said there were 3 or 4, right? What were the
the third is, I call it bold action and commitment. So bold action and commitment. So there's a couple layers to that, like the cohorts at the moment that we're looking at unfurling here at Mode, like purposefully like a 3-month container like of a commitment, because there's something elegant about narrowing down like say a 3 or 5 year vision and grounding it into something you could do, like as you were saying, like this day, this week, this month, or over a 3-month period. So in the group, the reason I call it bold action and commitments, usually we elevate. It's fun to pick one area where you're just going to go all out in and drop the excuses. Nobody can be their hypothetical ideal in all things, right? But you could usually pick a domain and be like, you know what, I'm going to flip the script on just this area, and I'm going to, where I've been sloppy, I'm going to be masterful, and I'm going to be accountable. And so sometimes that takes a level of boldness or willingness. But on the daily rhythm, there's, as the group meets every couple of weeks in person, men have an opportunity to exit the meeting with a declaration, or 2 or 3. Now, but again, it all serves a purpose. You'll have the guys like, I'm doing these 8 things. And we'll be like, all right, man, go get it. And then
just supportive, knowing that
what are you going to do
much?
in the beginning? Like you might have an instinct like, God. Now, there are the guys like, holy cow, he's highly conscious. That guy just knocked out all 8, so there's the suggestion is usually 1 to 3 things for those 2 weeks that are going to get your priority attention. It could be as simple as dialing in your day-to-day rhythm. It could be so many things, because every man's in a different season. Some men are almost grandparents, some are fathers, some are starting a business, some are hiring to grow their business. So everybody's in a different spot, but bold action and commitment. So that's that's the third domain. When a man actually makes a declaration and decides to put his attention on 1 to 3 areas for a short window. It's not overwhelming. It's not a whole year. Every day at 5 a.m. I'm going to do push-ups.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, just for these 2 weeks, and then, there's useful things. They could do a screenshot of their tracker and share it with other men and in the app, and other men know they've seen it. And
yeah, that accountability is so helpful because we definitely don't want men to think that we won't see again for 2 weeks and we'll report back. But there's the action partners that throughout the week are checking in.
Yeah, I want to emphasize that point. So what I've found, borrowing from different models, this works really well, is like a meeting will wrap and then it meets again in person 2 weeks later. All of us fathers and men, we don't have time to do go smoke cigars with men every night or something like that. So the in-person's every 2 weeks, but in the interim, there's rotating action partners. So it's a cool way to get to know other men in the group for just a 2-week period. And you just agree to do a check-in at some point in those 2 weeks. It could be an in-person meeting here at Mode. You just grab a coffee in the co-working space. At a place like this flows so well, so men will be like, oh, great. They'll just coordinate their own, quick coffee, and they revisit one another's commitments, and they just check in and ask how it's going, right, to support one another. But so many other things are happening. They're getting to know another guy. It's more casual. It's organic. So there's like secondary benefits to this. These aren't networking groups, but naturally people are going to network and build relationships. And the neat thing about it is you pair off with someone else the next 2 weeks. And so you gradually get to know people in your local community that you otherwise would not have scheduled a coffee with, wouldn't have connected with. And that to me is one of the more gratifying things, is seeing the long-term friendships that can emerge out of something like this. That it might be 1 or 2 guys in the group, you retain quite a friendship 2 years later, or you're doing business with one of them. So yeah, the action partners is just, I thought about calling them accountability partners, but we're not really, you're accountable to yourself and to God or whatever your highest vision of life is. But an action partner is just like, hey man, how are your commitments and what's the truth about them?
I actually love the verbiage there. I've always called them accountability brothers or something.
Yeah.
And I love action partner. Seems more of a partner to help you act instead of someone to judge you or you have to check in with. It feels more of a partnership versus
like a judge and jury, or a divine authority.
You're scared to call your accountability brother because you failed. Instead, my action partner, like, hey, I failed. Now what's the action? Let's do it together. And that's even the verbiage seems much more cohesive to what we're trying to do. And
it just helps you to stay consistent.
And speaking of words matter, right? Mode has meaning, as you said. In Dutch, it means to gather with purpose, and that's the whole vision that Luke had of what this place would be. Every gathering in here would have some purpose for the awesome. Family and for the community. And so I love that you use the word bold. Right, bold actions. We're not just acting, but we're men, and we're learning to be leaders in our homes, in our businesses, in our communities. We all want to be better leaders. We all want to be more bold in our life, and so that bold action, I really enjoy.
Yeah, I really like it, isn't it? It's just true. You hear it.
It's cool.
It's like a shared male archetype, and we could drift. Like Luke's talked about this. If he were here, he would articulate.
Should we bring him in?
We should, but let's bring him in. But on the bold point, Scott, like Luke was talking about, in today's modern world, you don't have high stressors, pressures, and you almost have to, in the context of kids or sports, you almost have to create containers that, kind of like the concept of hormesis, like that, like a good stress pressure that brings out something in you. Mm-hmm. And so I think in today's world with men, like we don't have the opportunity to be bold or get after it.
Yeah.
Or have like a...
What even is boldness for a man today? It's such a different... When I was growing up, you looked at the men, and this is 80s, 90s, I know 50s, 60s, 70s, even more so maybe, but you looked at men who were bold, and you almost saw it in the way they carried themselves, their persona, their language, their willingness. You talked about what a man is being willing to be himself in a group and be proud of it, but also respect that you might disagree. That's what a bold man was when I was growing up. A man who stood firm on his principles, but almost lovingly about it, but was very, we look back and maybe there's some stoic type,
sure.
But what is a bold man today? 2026, does it look different in your opinion? Or is it personal? Is it individual?
Yeah, bold's one of those words that I love, but it does flirt with like I don't know, it flirts with narcissism or grandiosity. It flirts with like too much of an emphasis on self. So it's a good word in that it's right on the edge. Like a bold man today, I think, is well. Here's how I'd put it. It's hard to be a man. It's hard to be a human being. And in the modern world, everything's changing so fast. And that demands a certain sort of like willingness to adapt, flexibility. I was just talking to some men in a group that I facilitate, a remote group of men they live across the country. And one man we're talking about this idea of weariness. And this was like, there's a spectrum of like very successful. One guy had like their company sold to Airbnb. Another guy's just starting out. He's like in Texas. But how to begin again after a success or a loss. And there's sort of like a boldness of spirit, a courage to like, despite, these are the things that I'm just free associating right now, but the things that come to my mind, like despite a setback, despite a loss, despite that, oh man, because it's almost frustrating as a human. Like I thought I had all this dialed and now there's new uncertainty and new opportunities and I got to go after it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, life demands a certain willingness to be. So bold means like, I'm not going to let approval of others hold me back. I heard this great thing once that if the world is if the world is full of rings, part of like inner work and development is to straightening out your hooks. And if you have, otherwise you get hooked up on everything. So it's like a bold man's not going to let fear of losing approval hold him back, the threat of failure hold him back. And men need to re-tap into that spirit sometimes, because we don't win everything. We make mistakes. Maybe there's a loss. And there he is, the myth.
Luke's joining us. I want to say something to that because it's so relevant today. I actually just saw a study that they did that said children are only naturally afraid of two things when they're born. According to this study, everything else is learned. What would you guess the two things are?
Let me think. What would they be afraid of? Kids?
Yeah, young children.
I don't know. I can't even think.
Falling. So
Okay.
any fall or loud noises. Those are the only innate natural
fears.
things. And so
That's so good.
And so men need to understand that these things are learned behaviors and can be trained. You can be trained out of it, or you can be trained to overcome or conquer. I have a lot of people who say things like, well, I'm not naturally bold, or it's not my personality, or whatever. Well, Usain Bolt wasn't naturally the Olympic champion. He might have naturally been athletic, in fact, but he had to train to get there. And you can train in the exact same way to be more courageous, to be a better communicator, to be more bold in life, to be more assertive. Those are things that actually can be learned behaviors. And so these men's groups are places where you can come with your faults, say, hey, I want to be more assertive. I'm shy. Can I not be shy? Can I work on those things? And the answer is always yes. Falling you might be afraid of forever, and loud noises might startle you always. Yeah. But everything else we can work out and help you improve and train on.
Yeah, and how it expresses, like if, when you, like historically, if you ever had roommates pre-marriage, I don't know, in your life, you just sort of fall in love with, if you're a human being of goodwill and you're not a roommate with a crazy person, you kind of fall in love with their nature and their quirks and their way. But to be bold for a 30-year-old, more reserved guy might look totally different than the extroverted talks too much gentleman. To be bold for him might be to like quietly do something is uncomfortable for him. So like this inviting men to take bold action, it's really individually specific.
I love that. I'm getting more and more excited about these group meetings because I think a lot of men's groups are hero-led, hero-worshipped. You got the one guy on top who says, be like me, and you go and you try to emulate whatever. What it sounds like, Matt, you've created and we're going to implement in Mode is that we will take you how you are and we will work on you individually in a group setting to get an action partner and to get a great support system. But we're going to take you and get to work. You don't have to be like Matt. You don't have to be like Scott or like
Yeah.
Luke. You can take your personality, your strengths, your weaknesses, and we'll help fine tune all the things that you are.
Yeah, it's a deep respect for reality. People have certain natures, temperaments, values.
It's like you sometimes expect everyone to be your personality. Hey, I'm really tough. Everyone should be tough. Or I'm really outgoing. Why don't you just go speak in front of the group? It's easy. Just go up there.
And there's warmth that emerges. I have a group, for instance, we had everybody do a personality test. One of the good ones out there. It's the Big 5 personality test. Jordan Peterson's a big fan of it, and I think it's like $10. The website's understandmyself.com. Anyway, it rates things like assertiveness. And there's a guy in the group. He's a music teacher. This is one of my remote groups, a Zoom group. He's a music teacher at a private school in like Chicago. And he's 0 on assertiveness, right? So in the whole meeting, he'll never talk. And we love him. And we have to ask him a question. And then he laughs about it. We just joke like, yo, 0, we want to hear from you. And he laughs. He's like, thanks for asking. And then he contributes so much. So it's not like we're trying to get him to be 99% assertive. There's just, however, he has a certain nature. He's a wonderful father. He's a music teacher. That's a certain temperament. But it does the groups where you're imbalanced, it brings you more into balance. So in truth, he is more confident, and he does speak. He doesn't always just wait for us to invite him to speak. But there's that humor and warmth around our nature. And until you can have a little laugh about your fallibility and your quirks, you're not going to shift them. You're not going to act on them and change. So,
most men are good at that. We're good at teasing each other.
It's just natural.
Back and forth, and that's
Totally.
That's one of my favorite things, honestly, about connection with other men is, they've got these memes out there now where the guys tease each other for 5 minutes, and the wives are just looking at them like, what are they doing? And then they walk in the kitchen. The wife's like, are you okay? He's like, that's my new best friend. Like, we're buddies now because we razz each other, and we're for the most part, we're good at that. And so with mode men, this faith, this self-improvement, this bold actions, and you'll share your fourth one with us here. But these are the things we're going to try to do while creating that atmosphere of lightness and fun and connection with other men, so that they feel, man, I'm going to go laugh with the fellas today, and I'm going to leave with something to do that's going to really push me to be better. My wife's going to be grateful. My kids are going to be grateful. My boss or my business or whatever are going to be grateful. But I also am going to go, Matt's going to be there, and I know he's going to tease me about this thing. It's this endearing part of what being a men's group is.
You raise another thought. I think the men I admire, we were talking about earlier. Scott was reflecting on, like, what is it about qualities of men years ago, or what are qualities of a man I admire? One is I just want to emphasize is men I admire contribute to others when they have no personal gain involved, and it's just you pick that up on the fly, like, oh, he has really actually nothing to gain. And I think something in a man dies when he's not uplifting or encouraging others. There's that saying, like, whatever you champion in another man, you bring out more in yourself. So one thing I love about groups is men are kind of like, we could drift into, naturally we're selfish creatures, and we worry about, in a good way, our own homes and our interests. That's a natural instinct. But it's really inspiring to encourage someone else. So you get like this, and this I think attracts winners and successful business owners, or people who, part of the reason they win is there's a selfless quality, or they love to encourage for its own sake. And so the neat thing about groups like this is that it attracts a whole spectrum of people. And I had a guy, I did a group, and let me put this gracefully, but various levels of functioning and success in life. And one guy was just struggling in life. So we did this exercise, and we were talking to him in the group, and later on there was a gentleman in the group, quite successful, and he was like, I got more out of watching that dialogue with so and so. It just opened up something in me in my bit, like that, wow, because he had humility. He wasn't like above the guy. He actually cared for the man, and he caught something in his own self. And so I think men need to pour into other men. As fathers, we do that naturally with our sons, and
I think outside of your own children, being a mentor for someone may be one of the most rewarding.
It's so gratifying.
Of life. Yeah.
Yeah, and when it's done with purity, like it's just enjoyable for its own sake.
Yeah.
You're like privileged to be asked.
And time is probably the greatest sacrifice, especially for those who've been successful financially. It's a lot easier to be like, yeah, I'll give your company a donation versus spend time. And so it can become the ultimate sacrifice, and pouring into someone and watching them thrive and improve is extremely validating.
I think also when you're honest, I mean, most people that I've talked to have, usually they can count on one hand those people in their lives that made them who they are, you know, and when people are, you know, have that empathy and that gratitude for that, for those people being in their life, because they wouldn't be who they are without them, when they come to a part of what's my legacy and what I want to build, and they have empathy for that person struggling, you know, with I'll say with a grateful mentality and a grateful heart, you want to give back, to be that. And how cool is it if you could be one of those 5 people in someone's life that they look back on and say they made a meaningful difference that affected and changed my you know, my outcome. And that's just really special, and for anyone, you know. And I same thing with my upbringing and whatnot, is it's a handful of people that really at the right time in the right place. And when you see someone struggling, you're like, this is the right place, or they're going to go downhill quick, you know, or they're already on their way. It's really, really awesome when you can pour into somebody. We have a national basketball team here, and a couple tournaments ago, we had a player that in the middle of the night, while sleeping, started having some loss of shortness of breath, and his heart was hurting and stuff. So he had to be rushed to the emergency room at like 1 a.m. And our awesome coach, John Adams, took him and spent the night in the emergency room with him. And fortunately, everything was okay. But the dad of this young man called me, and we both got emotional. But he said, if you thought you had a good coach, just know that I'll forever be grateful to him for spending the night with my son, because that family was not out at the tournament. And I got emotional because my son plays on the team, and I thought it's really comforting to think that we have the men surrounding my son who would be there, who would stay up all night. And so that sacrifice of time and the mentorship and those who we, you know, it's very touching to us when we think about our sons being poured into, but all of us are sons, you know, right? Like there's some dad out there who's grateful for, you know, your dad, Matt, that we're sitting here with you, and grateful that you're being poured into in that way. And so very powerful. Glad we're going to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
So tell us about the 4th one, and then now that Luke's here, we'll get into kind of what Mode Men. Actually, we've been philosophizing a little bit about what men are, what they need, what some things that Matt has learned in his incredible experience and as a therapist and business owner and all of that. And so we've sort of talked about maybe the what a little bit, the what a man is, the what a man needs, the how we are going to pour into them in these groups, but we haven't given specifics about mode men or anything. But if I remember right, did you say there were 4 kind of key pillars?
There's 3 key principles, and then the 4th, you guys have it in one of your anchor 4 on, you call it brotherhood. Yeah. And that's I'll just add my thought on that. But in terms of, I've already talked about like faith and meaning. We already kind of covered self-examination, inner work, and then bold action commitments, having action partners, being accountable to your commitments. But that all happens within a brotherhood. And that just goes to your earlier point about men are lacking a place to connect with other men. Here at Mode, you're going to attract people who are aiming at things, who value their time. You know, some will have families, some won't, but they're going somewhere. And when you're around other men who are aiming at things that bring high values together, that's a great brotherhood to be around. So yeah, in my groups, it's just that saying that, you know, when the tide's lifted, all the boats are lifted. Yep. So this is just having the humility, like, I'm not the ocean. I need to be around other boats. I'm going to put my boat in this harbor, and by osmosis, I'm going to be on it more, connecting with more, organically networking, building friendships.
I imagine, and I know this from the men's groups I've been part of, it, but the hardest thing is getting in your car to head to the men's group, right? Once you show up, I've almost never heard of anyone that didn't think that these experiences are valuable.
Yeah. Even sometimes there's just after meeting people, they resist coming, but then they'll spend an extra half hour chatting and networking after the meeting. Mm-hmm. And so, because the connections are flowing and stuff. So
I want to give a quick rundown, just a recap of those 3 principles: faith we're going to talk about and what faith means, and that is not a religion, necessarily religious only principle. If you're non-religious, there's meditation, there's all sorts of things that what your faith can help motivate you to do. And then self-improvement, which is the obvious purpose behind a lot of this, and bold actions are the three principles that Matt's going to help us all sort of work on and master, or whatever word we want to put there. The mode men call them core four pillars are leadership, brotherhood, purpose, and self-improvement. So we're right in line with those things, and we're trying to help men figure out what kind of leaders they should be, what kind of leaders they can be within their home, within their personal life, within their community. The obvious brotherhood connection, which is absolutely needed. I think I was quoting this to you, Matt, but it's something like 85% of men over 35 don't have a best friend, which is tragic in a lot of ways. And my wife and I have moved to Coeur d'Alene just 3 years ago, and so there were months when we first got here where it was like, I need a buddy. Where do you go to get a buddy at 40 years old, right? Yeah. And so I've fit that category at times in my life. And then obviously
Can I say something on that?
Please, yeah.
This has always struck me. So I may have shared this with you guys like weeks ago when we had a coffee, but remind me if I did. But there's this quote I heard from a Canadian author. It's not religious. He just said tradition. His name's Donald Kingsbury. I haven't read his books, just saw the quote. Tradition is a set of solutions for problems you don't even know you have until you remove the tradition. So I want to tee up that friendship point, like that stat. It is like one of the sources of addictions is loneliness. A lot of people who have compulsive behaviors are lonely. But the thing that successful men that have friendships and relationships realize is they invest in some sort of structure or tradition. So I was shared probably 15 years ago. I can't remember it. A gentleman wrote a book on friendship, and I watched a YouTube interview with him. And he was talking about, this man's in his 60s. He's like, let me tell you about one of my best friends, Charles, at 73 years old. He's like, I love Charles. He's dear to me. He's very quirky. I know everything about his family, his kids, his life. Do you know why Charles and I are so close? 15 years ago, we decided to have lunch every Friday. We never miss our lunch. Charles is dear to me. And I was like, man, in today's world, we're so transitory, what's convenient. And it takes a certain level as a human being to respect your human nature and have the humility to stay consistently connected with stuff. It could be your faith community, your family. It's like the families that don't have dinner together. But something like this modes group, you can't overstate. Friendships take your commitment to invest in them and to show up and be there. And so I love that, anytime you can provide a container for men to act out on an impulse like that.
It fits your quote perfectly. It's the tradition saves you from the whatever word you use.
Problems you don't even know you had until you remove that tradition.
And that's what friendship is, right? I know there's the studies that like loneliness is like smoking 2 packs a day as far as health and risk of death and those type of things. I saw one the other day that my wife questioned who came up with this study, but that men who have 2 men's nights a week are X amount healthier than
I saw that one.
And that might have been men who put that one together.
Yeah. I'm not
that might have been the fantasy football guys.
Like, wow, is that the 50s? That's a nice bowling and whatever it was.
Right, but either way, whether that's an actual study or not, there is a lot of value in male friendship that you don't realize the effects until it's gone. You don't realize how
you
healthy.
Mentioned you moved earlier. Like that's just ripping up every traditional structure.
Yeah.
You get in touch with your human nature. You're like, okay, I'm beginning anew. What do? Yeah. You recommit to structures and cadences. And
in fact, Luke, when we started this, one of Luke's big things was we should be the place where men who move into Spokane or Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai, or
that's so good.
Spokane counties, we should
it's a
be
no-brainer.
A haven
this
for
is
them.
the college. This is like the college campus of like 25s and up. I'm sure you guys have said that, but
I think and really having a really intentional people and really people that are busy and that have their life planned out, they want efficiency. They don't to your point of knowing where to go, even if they're fairly, you think of lonely people just can't find a friend, but also very assertive people that are out there moving and shaking, and they just want to be You know, it's like why I go fishing in Alaska, because you actually catch fish. You catch, you know, I want to be efficient. I want to go, I want to plan it out, and I want to catch fish. I don't want to sit on a cooler for power bait all day long, right? That's kind of how it is, I think, for a lot of men. They want to just be like, cool, I know I'm going to meet cool people if I get the right situation. And where is that situation? Where can I go find that? And then where is it led till we go past the small talk and get into really meaningful relationships? You can, because people that want efficiency too, it's like small talk is like, this is a waste of my time, kind of.
Totally.
You know, it's like, let's get to it. Right? And if there's not a get to it here, I'll go find somewhere else where there is, you know. And I think that attracting, I think that's what we're going to attract in this group is just movers and shakers out there, getting out there that, you know, that want a place to be intentional, want like-minded people that get together. Because again, you could do that in you know, business environments, but sometimes you're not the same industry or whatever, and so it's like, oh, cool, well, catch you later, and it's not, you know, to connect again. Where we have a lot more in common if we leave outside of business, even though there's so many other, you know, ways we're built that makes businessmen who they are, even if they're outside of industry, that you can connect on, you know. But if it's a business-minded thing, you don't connect because you're a different thing. When it's a men thing or a relationship thing, then all of a sudden those barriers go down, and it's like, wow, I can have a friend, and it's totally different than me and what I would think. What do you? I always find it interesting when you shake your hand. After their name, what's one of the first things that men do?
What do you do?
What do you do? What does that even mean? You know what I mean? It's like, what do I do?
How rich are you? How successful are you?
What do you think we're really asking when we ask
I know.
How successful are you?
I think that I think it's
kind of like, what game board and warrior are you? What battlefield are you on in life and ranking? It's a deep question. Like, what are we asking?
I wonder if it's deep, because I think some people that have it deep, I think also it's just, it's like when you ask someone's name and you ask like, how are you, and you also, you know, there's people that ask you that honestly they're going to turn off their brain the second you start asking it.
They don't really care how you are.
It's just the thing you say.
It's
right?
a social custom.
And so I believe it could be very deep. Like what do you do? Because that's a deep question. But I think a lot of it's also default. You know what I mean? So
I think it's social custom.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what do you do? I think 95% of the time I ask that, they go to their career, right? That's what they're being asked. I am an engineer.
You know,
it is
to swing this back to mode, though. I think here's where we pay attention when people answer the question, because what we do is secondary, you know, in a sense. Like it's more what we are. So you ask a man what he does. I'm gauging like how he talks about what he does, his beingness, there's what you say and what you do, but you could do it out of arrogance. You could but how he is in truth. So I think we have these social customs, but we're kind of reading like, wow, I like that guy. What do you like about him? It wasn't the doingness. Oh, he happens to own a widget company that does this. That was kind of secondary. I actually like that, how he held himself, his way of being about it, the way he asked me questions.
To combine both of what you just said, I read something about the loneliest man in a company is the CEO. And the reason is because he can't go complain about his financial struggles with his employees, because they are not going to appreciate that. He can't tell them the future plans because that's just in his head, and he hasn't developed. Like, there's this loneliness in leadership sometimes. So we get these badasses that you're talking about who have a place where they could be like, man, you guys, I can't, payroll struggling, or the successes we talked about. I did $1 million deal. The CEO can't go tell the part-time employee that he just made $1 million.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because in addition to the three principles of these smaller groups, one is like tradition. So one tradition is anonymity and privacy, and that it's not airtight, but there's a culture of like, hey, what's said here stays here, and just respect the privacy of each man in the group. But that's very true. Successful people, the higher you get, the rarer it is to have a safe container to be straight. Even in like recovery communities, I know even in Coeur d'Alene, there's a private Alcoholics Anonymous group. Someone was telling me about it for like surgeons, because you know they're well-known people. They can't just like show up. Maybe they feel less inclined. They could, but it's a private group for like surgeons or hospital owners, and where they could be honest about whatever they're struggling with. And so so men need somewhere.
Well, they're usually hard workers, and so they often don't have time. And so to Luke's point, if we could provide a place where you have some of that privacy, but like-minded people They can have a conversation that doesn't feel arrogant, that feels more natural, and you can still talk about your issues that your part-time employee is going to be resentful if you complain about how your boat broke down this weekend, or whatever it is in your business and things like that. And so,
and it's purposeful. It's like a successful busy man doesn't. You were saying earlier, Luke, he doesn't want to go to a meeting that lacks purpose or direction. So
limited time.
You're annoyed. He would be annoyed. Okay, we're talking about your struggles, but unto what?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like, oh, got it. This is part of a process, and we're all just looking at the truth of the struggle in order to create a solution or move forward on that in my business or whatever the struggle happens to be.
Yeah. So essentially, we're saying mode men. There's a place for, to quote Luke, the movers and shakers. There's a place for the CEO. There's a place for the guy who has the aspirations to become that one day. Like you said, there's the financially successful, and there's the guy just starting out to be in that room together. We're going to create the place for that experience to be meaningful. For those who are, to just be frank, the badasses of the world, who are high quality, high value men.
Just a lot of responsibilities. Their time's precious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not whether there's certain caliber of guy. It's not whether they can do a thing or not. It's whether it's meaningful or worth it to them.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should. I'd like to talk about just ideas we've talked about with what we do, even outside the call it the group setting, and we have an opportunity with the building here to do some really cool stuff, and because we want it to be not just like you're always coming in sitting down, because we want to be somewhat entertained and have fun together, and that builds in and of itself a relationship. And so a lot of fun ideas around that. I think we're gonna I got the green light on racing cars at the racetrack. We have a race school that came with the racetrack when I bought it, and so we have 6 race cars that are just, and we have 2 of them that have 2 seats. So
wow.
we warm the guys up with going around with a pro driver, and that is wild because you're going around so fast around the curves, your head you feel like you're gonna fly out the side.
Oh man!
And then you realize how slow you are when you get in and drive it because you are not doing what they're doing after after a lap or 2, and so that's a super fun thing we're going to do. We have a whole season of races that we're going to have fun with, getting together and being together with that. Stuff in this building, we have gyms. We have multiple gyms that we can challenge each other in.
Which we will do group workouts.
Yeah, group workouts.
Group workouts.
And then open times. Like when you start to get, you build these relationships, having part of our membership to be access, right? And so you want to get with one of your friends or a bunch of other guys in the group or the entire group to say, hey, let's meet at 6 o'clock and do a workout.
You've got saunas
together.
now too, right?
Well, not only just a sauna, but like a 20-person sauna, probably 15-person sauna,
that's
where we
awesome.
can sit and actually, we talk about hanging out after. There could be a sauna session where we continue the conversation.
That's fantastic, yeah.
Nothing better than chatting and sweating and being in the gym together.
I have a coaching client in Finland, and saunas, it's like I think there's a sauna for every 3 people in Finland.
Yeah.
And he was giving me a video tour of this old smoke sauna and on their property, like this old school method. And but it's awesome to sauna with other. I mean, in our culture, that's fantastic. I didn't know it was that large.
I think there are two things. We're going to create a bunch of these, and Luke can keep going talking about what we'll offer this year. But I think you sit around a fire outside.
Yep.
For whatever reason, we open up and we
Fire
share.
pit,
and in a sauna, there's something about sitting in a sauna where you just, I don't know what it is. That atmosphere is conducive for opening up and good conversations.
Yeah. So. Yeah, tons we can do there with each other, and it's going to be fun to see the groups develop. We also have a thing called we have a yoga studio, but we have a program called Broga, which is guys that are includes me. I've been to a few yoga sessions, and you always think and I don't know if I can be that flexible, and I'll look like an idiot, and with all these other usually women that are just amazing at it and whatever. We do a session when we get a specific yoga instructor that knows how to adapt things to guys. and we've had some broga sessions that are super fun.
Is that a thing out in the world? What's it called?
Broga.
This
Did
is
you
a
make up the name?
It's
Okay.
a Luke
It was
invented.
a play on words.
Broga.
I'm sure I'm not the
session.
first person to ever say that, but
Yeah.
But yeah, we just are like, dude, let's just do a guy, because we
Yeah.
had guys who are like, oh, yoga was kind of cool and
Yeah.
loved it. I don't know if I could ever fit into a class. They had a want, but like there was no option for them
Yeah.
in the regular world of yoga, and we're like, we're gonna create just a class for dudes.
Yeah.
So we've done Broga, which will be super fun.
Just a quick story about that, by the way. I did one, and I was not as skilled as the others, and I laid on the ground for a minute in a kind of a starfish, and my family happened to walk by, and they took a picture, and all the men are doing
Oh, you're just...
and I'm in a starfish. So come as you are to
Yeah,
Broga.
that's great.
I don't
All
think starfish
abilities
is one
are.
of their moves.
It is. It's the best move. It's the most important move.
They don't move much. Yeah.
Just lay down and
Warps.
sigh.
But speaking of that, our yoga studios actually have open hours for meditation and laying down. So
Oh, they
we've
do?
actually
Sweet.
created an opportunity in those studios. We have a hot one, and so men and women can go in and just lay down and relax and get some meditation and things like that. So if you're a mode man and you work in the building, you want a lunchtime meditation or relax, you can go take
Yeah.
advantage of that.
So there's that. We're gonna do some pottery. We have a pottery studio. We could do some wildly cool stuff. Barbershop.
Again, a barbershop where if
Getting
you're a
a
mode man,
barbershop?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
if you're a mode man, we'll
part of
reveal the numbers as after we get our
Some sort
contract
of a
officially
discount
signed.
or-
We're working with a group that's going to be amazing, and there is a discount for
Dude, all
mode
those
men.
things, those are the things you want off schedule in your life. And
Yep. And then
great.
business, like having access to people that just want to come and collaborate. Like we'll have our sessions where we get together, but what's cool about Mode is not like a place that like a coffee shop that you're like, you go there and then there's no infrastructure after that. You gotta go and leave, and this is a place where you can live, and it's a place that you can plan a large part of your life with a continuum of this, the things you enjoy as part of the men's group, but also the relationships you enjoy. You can continue with those, and that's what I think is just cool about this is a platform and a foundation that can be built upon, rather than these flashes in a pan that you just always hope for the next and you hope for the next. But in between those two nexts, you're all on your own. You're all on your own. You have to do everything.
Yeah, you have somewhere to
individually.
deepen the relationship and connections. You two had mentioned the vision for Mode Men, like everything from the socials to bring people to get together and these groups, but also in the future executive offerings or possibly retreats or
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll do everything. Once a month we're going to meet just for fun, but it'll have purpose. It won't just be come sit around and stare. We'll have some directed social activities and maybe some games, and there will be game nights where we just come watch the football game together, and there will be some conversations, some purpose there. We like Luke said, this building has so many things to offer. We have a full music program where we could go and just do a jam session together and sing.
and that'll
and,
draw the men that are into that.
Yeah,
totally.
and but we have fire pits that we literally could go sit around a fire pit at night, and somebody who's good at the guitar, and we just sit and have that kind of an experience and those things. We own Luke owns a bunch of property, and we could do. We want to do a father-sons camp out this year. We will have date nights. We will have family activities. We'll probably end up doing a big Mode Carnival this summer, and Mode men will all be invited and bring their families. And
That's cool.
yeah, we want to build community. We
Yeah.
want to give people a place to land and connect with one another, improve their lives, but spend more time with those who matter most in their life. You know, the vision is that people take their kids all over. Not the vision. The problem is that people take their kids all over after school to different practices and different places. And you see each other at 9 o'clock just in time to high five and go to bed and maybe eat dinner together once a week or whatever. Luke's Amazing Vision is trying to solve that, to get families to be able to do all those things together here under this roof.
And that's what will connect. I think that'll be one of our biggest. When you said that the hardest thing is to drive to the men's group or what you need. When there's 10 barriers or 5 barriers that are keeping you from that you can make excuses for, that it's hard to get to and it's hard to end up doing. And there's times where it's just like, I don't have the hour because I go from work to driving my kids all over and that's just really inefficient use of my time. But I do it because I love my kids, and I know it's best for I know it's good for them. When you can take advantage of those 1 or 2 or 3 hours and say, well, that's where the men's group is going to be meeting, same place, same time, really you removed all obstacles to say, be a part, and I think that will activate men that in a normal situation would admit that they're like, in any other scenario, this wouldn't be possible for my life, or at least I wouldn't have been able to get to a point of value in this.
Sustainable.
It would have been sustainable, and I wouldn't have started because I wouldn't see sustainability, because it's a commitment, right? You don't just show up and be like, hey, cool, I'm not. It's a commitment to show up if you're going to be really, truly pour into it. And so when somebody doesn't see, like, yeah, I can do it this week, but next week crazy because I'm not, like having a facility and a space and intentionality to and have that programmed out in a meaningful way is what I think I'm excited about, because then we can attract a much larger swath of men that are in need of it,
well,
but don't even know they
bookend so many things. I mean, you could knock out a workout, a men's group, and some work on your computer, depending on your membership here. But you could stack things. Yeah,
make it an efficient life. So it'll be fun to do. But we're gonna throw it, everything at it that we have at Mode and the track and all the things we have, and then we'll have other people with resources and cool things that we can be a part of. But just people's presence, doing fun things in people's presence that we care about and we value, is just going to be a fun thing to see. And then just seeing, the connective pieces, the most important other people in their life, seeing them thrive as well, in the same building or in the same room. So kids and moms and wives and that they're going to see, this is amazing for us all. We're all thriving. That's the vision of the whole, and we're putting it all together. So it'll be fun. The men's group is what we all understand. We have other people working on other really cool elements of it. We have some entrepreneurship stuff happening. We do have some moms and women's group stuff happening. We have some individual, we have a huge event this weekend with great James Sprague, the fittest man on earth, putting together a whole bunch of athletes coming from all over the country to come be. So we have all these really cool pockets, but generally we're humans and we're all connecting with our likes and interests, but also just connecting because we're all
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question, if you don't mind. Before you sat down, Scott and I were talking about. It kind of goes with that surgeon's example. We were just musing. I was like, man, who do you guys have as leadership here, the owner leadership, to you're at the spearhead or the forefront of this concept. And I was just talking to Scott saying, is there maybe 3 or 4 things like this across the country, mate?
Yeah.
And who do you, how do you have a compatriot in a vision like this somewhere on North America's where you could talk about these things? Because you're bringing in so many elements, Luke, that you don't see in the marketplace.
You don't. I haven't seen them all. I've seen, call it 50 to 70% of what we're doing here. I'll see, I was just actually looking at a really cool one down in Tampa that's called Armature. And it's a really cool event space, has some element of co-working, has awesome community structure, no school, no school that's a part of that. And then obviously if they have a coffee shop this way or if they have a ceramic studio or not, I don't really take into account. They didn't have doctors, they didn't have physical therapists, So, but really cool stuff they're doing, really awesome stuff. And then I look at another place that's super great at co-working, and they throw elements of some other amenities, but they don't have this or that or the other. So it's truly building a space that's a community center that has these anchor spaces. And the 2 biggest anchors are the school, because that's where our kids will spend the majority of their waking hours from, 3 or 4 till 18. Yeah. Most neurologically, the neurological developing times in their life, they will spend in a school. You want that to be really intentional and something you buy into and you believe in. The next for adults, when we ask, hey, what do you do? Why does it come to first? Why does everyone really answer what their career is? Because the majority of the life that they live is their career. The majority of their waking hours is in their career. And so we have a space that people can thrive in doing their craft, and obviously it doesn't work for everyone if you have a job that requires you to go to another building. But those that are building their own, it has flexibility, we have a co-working space that they can come here and live and be. and that is, and so that takes the two anchor parts of people's lives into effect, and then the amenities kind of polish and round everything off. It really helps to, what do you want to do in the morning when you get up? That's why find your mode. Like, what's your MO? What's your modus operandi today?
Yeah.
Like, find your mode here, because we should have a majority of what people are looking and will do in a day somewhere in this building, and it can be done really intentionally. It will save you a ton of time and a ton of money when you put it all together. Yeah. And then when your family can attach to it, man, your efficiency goes to the roof. But yeah, it's a bit of a one-off. That doesn't scare me at all, because it's so all related to life. Yeah. If it was all of a sudden I was doing like all stuff all over the place,
it's not a novelty.
I'm gonna smash this all together. When you come through it, it kind of like we get this all the time of like people like they get the aha moment of like really that it seems mattered together, and then when you walk through it and you see yourself in the spaces, you're like, oh my gosh, could save me insane amount of time. And if I cancel this membership, I'd get it here, I'd do this, and man, that's like half the price I would otherwise spend, Yeah. So it makes it possible, because you can live a thriving life with the time that you have otherwise in the day that you otherwise could never do this if it was in the regular environment. Mm. So it's fun, but getting people to see it, to believe it is a challenge, because it's not like we can say
it's a new schema.
It's like this or this. Go, it's like
you don't have
another brand that they already know. So you have to walk them through the story. You have to walk them through their life. You have to walk them through the intentionality and purpose and efficiency, and they're like, oh, I get it. So that'll be fun, and the Mode Men will see that clearly. The men's group will be able to see that firsthand, and then their families hopefully will also be able to take advantage of it. So
the basic answer is no, this doesn't exist. Luke said it in a humble way. It is revolutionary. I don't know of any other place in the world, and I hope I'm not being overly dramatic, where the family literally could do just about everything they do under one roof.
Yeah, the two anchors of work and school.
And we're building a third, a giant
all the recreational athletics
rec center, a sports complex, and so that'll add all of your sport needs, and so it truly will be one of a kind at that point.
Yeah, the school will be anchored there. It'll be a school facility by day, and then as we do other events and stuff like that, community can, as it closes for the school, it opens to the community.
We never even talk about pickleball very often. Like, pickleball is very rarely mentioned, and I think we'll be the largest pickleball facility in the area, and that never even gets talked about.
Yeah,
and so
just the spotlight of movement and eyeballs just from that. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, and again, it's the purpose of building community and creating connection. I believe that with AI advancements and social media, we connect less and less. And so this is going to be the most important aspect of life, is how do we keep humans connecting with humans when they won't need to eventually.
I actually think AI will allow us to connect more.
I hope so. I hope it does. I get the fear of the what's that movie where they sit in their trailers on their virtual reality down the road, and so
yeah. Well, if AI is used as a tool, and a really cool tool that it is, man, it can free you up to be very much more efficient if you're given these other efficient models, like what can be to insert into the otherwise menial tasks that AI now does for you. Like, that's where I think we need to swap. It's like AI can make your life more efficient and make you get more done in less time. What do you do at that time?
Yeah, that's the question.
And Mode wants to be Mode Men. What we do here, we want to be able to be that space where we can fill that time. With more intentionality. You're already super intentional and efficient with the AI. You can keep that going with what we're doing here. But yeah, get out of but to the point of getting out into community and having community be delivered in an efficient and impactful way to people connect to would be really cool.
Yeah, so our kickoff event, we ready to share this, our 2026 kickoff Mode Men. Some details still to come, but January 29th at 6 p.m. here at Mode. There will be some sort of eating because we love to eat, and there will be an activity that will help us see kind of what the group settings will be like. We're going to simulate that with a larger group in some form or fashion, and it'll be a really meaningful night that you'll go home well fed, both physically and emotionally, spiritually, mentally. So come join us January 29th here at Mode. All men 18 and older are welcome, and we'll help explain a little bit more about what Mode Men really is. But for those listening to this, one social activity every month that we'll do together. 2 times a week, we're going to have group workout sessions that you're welcome to do. Always welcome to go to the open gym anytime and yoga studios anytime if you're part of Mode Men. But we will have some organized group workout. If you need that action partner in the gym to motivate you and push you, we'll have that option as well. And then throughout the year, we're going to do date nights and family events and father and sons and all sorts of cool things. We do have access to some cool properties for some possible retreats and some of that. And then we'll talk executive packages and cool, add-ons and things like that. But if you're looking to be around other men who are, as Matt beautifully said earlier, who are part of that environment of improvement, of continual growth, then this will be a place in 2026 you want to come check out.
Excuse me. They can edit that out.
Yeah.
Whatever. One thought on that when you're talking about just the social element. And Luke, you were saying like define your mode as your main positioning. Yeah, where else can you do your own thing and chart your own way with others? I think that's the problem you're solving, actually. I don't mean to derail the broad announcement, but it's like, where else can you navigate your own thing together? Because usually you go join the Marines together. You're in the same HVAC company together. You have to do the same thing together in order to build the friendships. And I think, the modern dilemma is how do you build friendships and connections while charting your own way and doing your own thing? And it allows people to do it. Random enthusiastic thought. I think that's the problem you guys are solving. A problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the social, I'm excited for it. I've heard you guys have already had some great ones.
Yeah, we've had some fun. We have over 100 men on our app and group, and we put together some really fun activities, and it'll be great. I tell everyone my story with men's groups is a bit selfish. I started a men's group years ago because I needed that connection, needed that accountability, wanted that push. Started businesses. Again, where do you go to find a mentor, or who do you call? If you don't have someone already in your back pocket. And so I selfishly tried to build spaces where I got what I wanted out of that, because I knew so many other men were feeling what I was feeling. And so we'll have that. We'll have that here. But again, the beauty that Luke described is you come to men's group at night and your wife's like, I don't really want you to leave. I'm bored by myself at home, whatever. Come do yoga while I'm in men's group. Come make your own connections. Yeah. Your son is like, Dad, what do I do? You can't leave me home alone. I'm 10. Come be in the jiu-jitsu while I'm in the men's group. Come play the guitar while I'm doing men's group. And your whole family can be here doing different things. And then, hey, let's all meet in the cafe for this after, or let's all, go do this after. So it's just beautiful for the families that have less time together than they desire, and yet still want to be part of things like this. We help solve that issue and that problem.
And these men's socials, men who haven't joined a membership yet can come too, right?
Yes. Yeah. Our kind of monthly social fun night, we'll call it for now. Everyone's welcome. Everyone in the community.
Bring a friend, come.
Yeah. We'll make them really cool. They'll be fun. And, things will change. So in the summer, we may do, it might be a hike tubs and jump, go cliff jump and see who still can get off a 20-foot cliff without dying and stuff like that. We'll do all sorts of different activities and things like that. And we encourage breakout groups. We have a mountain bike group that they're not official, call them Mode Men Mountain Bike Nights, but that group texts everyone, and whoever wants to go mountain biking links up.
Shared interests.
Yeah, we could, we'll create all sorts. We had a Bible study group last time, and not everyone in our group is religious, and so it wasn't like hey, everyone should come to this. It was, if If you want to do a Bible study, go with the Bible study group. If you want to be a hiking group, let's do that. A few of us, Luke and I, have a weird hobby together that we spearfish.
Oh, really?
And yeah, randomly. We didn't know that about each other until we knew that, and we've been out to the ocean and got our sons involved in it, and our sons' Christmases were spearfish oriented
awesome.
Christmases, and so we've connected through that. And I can't tell you, one of the coolest experiences in my life is Luke and I took our boys out to the coast, and we jumped in the water, and we didn't know it was the largest migration of jellyfish in years, and we all got stung by jellyfish, but it was manly in the coolest way. And we dove, and we had driven all the way out there. So guess what we said to our sons? We're not going back. Like, literally tens of hundreds of thousands of jellyfish around us, and they were fortunately on the surface. Once you dove down, you were fine. But these were massive, huge jellyfish
They
to
weren't
small
man of
jellyfish.
wars, but
they were big.
It felt like stinging nettle, on your face.
Yeah.
And we luckily only had our faces and our hands
Yeah.
open, so you just had to be careful.
Yeah.
But all of us, when we got out, we felt stings on our lips.
Our lips were sore and
man.
puffy, but our sons have begged to go back there.
That's
This
so
wasn't
memorable.
they
That's
just, and Luke's son and my son both went down and shot big lingcods. We had our younger sons out hand diving for crab and grabbing crab and coming up, and it was talk about that sort of stereotypical hunter manly moment. It was amazing. And so those are breakout things we could do, where if we're going to go spearfishing, we could say, anybody else want to come and you want to learn, or have you done this, and whatever your hobbies are, there will be a place to connect with some men to go do some really cool stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Any last anything we're missing, Luke, about what this is going to be? Or
I'm super stoked. It's going to be fun. We're going to just keep you posted on that, but come on the 29th and come be a part of it, and tell your friends.
Yeah, so let me just give one quick recap of what this is all going to be. We have Mode Men here at Mode, who we will do some fun social experiences, and then we will have a group session, group meetings, led by Matt Laughlin to start. He's going to help teach us how to lead so we can become facilitators and leaders in our own ways, and those will be every other week. There will be probably 12-week-ish sessions. There is limited space in these first groups, so we'll take about 30 men to start, and then we will do these rotating groups and help. And so these will be the type of group for self-improvement, better your faith, bold actions, and helping men grow and continue to grow. Is that okay to say it that way?
I think that's a great recap. And you mentioned a key point, like, they're not knowledge-based groups. Like, you're not learning how to be a man from me. I'm going to facilitate a process that works. And then other members in the Mode community are going to be tapped to just facilitate groups, but co-participate.
Yeah.
So everybody's co-participating in the group process. And yeah, and the only thing I would add is part of your Mode Men program is you have even a higher tier vision to eventually do executive stuff. And
yeah.
I'm excited to hear what you guys roll out.
And the promises are some laughter, maybe some tears, but some adventure and connection. We promise that there will be cool connection, a lot of laughs, and we'll do some crazy adventures as well together here in Mode Men. And then we also promise some self-improvement and betterment that we all strive for.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, well said.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Okay, Bambi, thank you.